No. While he was working there too, Ray had come, and he worked there for a while. And there's I don't understand exactly a lot about it, but there's these big pots or whatever it was. It was kind of like, it must have been like down in the floor, almost down under, that they opened up anyway, and there was all this flame and stuff. And this flared up when Ray opened and caught him and burned him terribly. At that time, when this happened, your dad was then working at the police department. He got the call over their radio that someone had gotten burned at the DuPont, and he just knew in his heart before they ever said it that it was Ray. It was, and he was burned, his face and his back, and I went to the hospital right away, and he was just swathed in bandages, you know. I mean, he just really was burned bad.
This was after Dad
After
there.
Yeah. I don't know how they had kept the plant open for a little while, but they were in the process of closing down because they were laying off, and your dad had gone to work at the police department. And his layoff between jobs there was the weekend. We had gone on vacation to Montana and didn't know. He said he should have been suspicious that the work was slow, but when he come back, they told him that they were closing, and they offered him a position at DuPont if he wanted to take it. But someone else had told him that the police department needed clerk. And so he went down there and took the tests and stuff, and he was called to work I think it would probably have been on a Tuesday because Labor Day was Monday, the day that you started the first grade.
Okay, but we're going to have to back up because back in Renton, Jim was born somewhere.
Yeah. Jim was born in July, right after we moved. We came out here in November, and we stayed with the folks until your dad went to work. Let's see, November. Your dad went to work in January at Latimer Goodwin. We came in town into Tacoma, and we got an apartment across the street there on Tacoma Avenue from the police department. And we stayed there until must have been July, because June or July, because then we left the apartment there, and I was pregnant with Jim. It was time for him to be born, and I was doctoring at the time, see, with the doctor in Renton, Dr. Pettibone.
You went back and forth to him?
Mm-hmm. I didn't have a doctor in town. I'd go to Renton. And then, so we gave the apartment up because that apartment was really, we couldn't find any place to live that was nice, anything good. Because of the shipyards, everything was taken. And we were lucky to find this, and it was 2 rooms. But, excuse it, but there was cockroaches all over. We moved in there, and your dad went to work, and that night I'd been straightening things, and I went in and I laid down across the bed, and I looked up at the ceiling, and there was cockroaches crawling on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Oh, and so we sprayed and sprayed and sprayed, but we were on the top floor, and every time I would spray the cockroaches, they furnished us with spray for them. The people down below would say, Wilma or Mrs. Duncan is spraying her cockroaches again.
Well, why?
Because they would come out, they'd roll. Well, because of the cockroaches, mainly, and because it was time for Jim to be born. And I said, I wasn't going to bring a new baby home. Cockroaches.
Cockroaches, I don't blame you.
And I'm not kidding. There was a lot. It was really terrible. Anyway, we moved back to Renton with the folks until after Jim was born. And it was really hard to find a place to live. So
In Renton, you had to find a place to live. You didn't stay with them?
No, we stayed with the folks. We stayed there, and we wanted someplace, you know, in Tacoma, because that's where your dad was working, in Tacoma. And he was driving back and forth then.
Every day?
For a while. Well, he drove back and forth when we first went there. And then this time, when we moved back with the folks before Jim was born, he went and stayed with Shrumps. Hazel and Homer Schrump, and they are third-tail relatives.
Oh, I didn't.
Hazel was Aunt Maud's sister, and he stayed in town here in Tacoma with them while I stayed with the folks in Renton.
Oh.
And then he'd come home on the weekends. And the night that Jim was born, or that was the weekend, and your dad had come home, and we'd just been, Luella was there, and Eugene was there. I mean, we had a house full. They all came, and that night, of course, I went into labor, and went to the hospital at 11 o'clock.
In the evening?
Yes. And Jim was born at, I think, if I remember right, it was around 4:35 or something like this in the morning. And of course, it was kind of a joke with us, we felt, because your dad went to the nursery to look at him. He was, there was another man standing there looking at the nursery window, and he was just beaming all over, and he said to your dad, "That's my baby there." And when the nurse came, it was a big man. He was much bigger than your dad. And when the nurse came over to show the babies, well, she picked up this nice big baby that this man claimed as his, and politely told him that it belonged to us. And his baby was a little baby. So he wasn't very happy about that, but I'm sure he must have gotten over it.
Dad must have busted his
Oh, he
buttons.
did. He just thought that was really something. This man had kind of looked at him and figured the little baby was ours. But Jim weighed 9'4", and just little chin rolling in fat, and his arms, and he was a husky little fellow. He looked, actually, I thought he looked like he was about 3 months old. Anyway, we stayed with the folks, and
How long then?
oh, it's kind of think, Jim must have been about a month old when we finally found a place. I was in the hospital for quite a while, and because of the hard birth, I was in bed at home for some time. And so Neil and Isla went looking for places for us. And the closest they could find, just about, I guess it was the only place, was a cottage out at Clear Lake.
Is that the Clear Lake we know?
Mm-hmm. And so we moved out there. And that was fine for the first few months there, but when it got cold in the winter, it was terrible. And there was quite a slope to get down to the cabin. So it was very icy and everything to get out. And we would try to come home, go to the folks on weekends quite a little bit. But the snow was so bad, and the winter there was it was so cold and everything, and your dad had cut wood. So it was, we had a fireplace and a wood-burning cook stove. And he'd spend his days cutting wood for me to use for the next day. And some of those days got pretty long because he would get up at about 4:30 in the morning and in order to make it to town to work. And then he also had a problem. He wasn't well. He was having quite a bit of difficulty. And he had such pains in his stomach. And sometimes he'd just double up in pain. Well, Jim was only about, well, by Christmas time he was 4 months old. That would be like 5 months, but we had pictures taken at 4 months of you and Jim. Anyway, I was going to say that the first few weeks maybe the first 3 or 4 weeks after he was born, he was a terribly fussy baby. He just cried and cried. And we just couldn't figure out why, what was his big problem. And one day Dad said, there's just no reason for that child to cry like that. That he's been changed, he's taken good care of, and he's been fed. There should be nothing wrong with him. Of course, Dad was playing doctor, I think. Anyway, he said he's just not getting enough to eat. And he was a big baby, and we had him on the formula the doctor had given him. But as the babies got older, you were supposed to increase the amount of milk that you put milk with water to make the formula. So Dad figured that his milk wasn't strong enough for him, so we tried it, and it made the world of difference. The baby was just hungry all the time. It wasn't staying with him. And when we latched onto that, he was the happiest baby you ever saw. And I have looked back many, many times, and I can't remember his crying. But he was just always happy. And when you, Dixie, would come over to the buggy and where he could see you, just close enough for anybody, but he just loved to have people around. He would just burst out laughing. First, of course, it was smiling and everything like a baby does. But he just was real happy.
Hear that, Jim? You used to love me.
Yes, very, very much. And later on, it was Dixie that took you by the hand and led you all around, always took care of you. What's that gal? She really watched over you. When you were outside playing and everything, she even saw to it that you got part of Dean's banana. That was quite a thing. Bananas were very scarce when you kids were playing outside. This was after we had moved on K Street. And we moved on K Street, and Deanie was your age, they say, and just lived next door. She came outside with a banana one day, and she was very sweet. She had half for you and half for her. And she gave you her half to hold while she went in the house for something, and you immediately gave that half to Jim. And it was the only banana they had, and then of course, Deanie threw a fit. There wasn't much we could do about it. We couldn't get another one. Because you kids just ate them down in a hurry. Anyway, there was lots of little fun things that went on, such as when I was visiting next door, you were pretending you were cooking in your little electric stove and melting butter in the front room on the chair, run all over.
Not just to tell bad things about me.
He made quite a few toys. I remember one time he made a rocking horse, and that was really cute. And it had the rungs on from an old rocking chair so that it would rock back and forth.
Was that one of those that little one sitting inside?
No.
It was a regular rocking horse.
Rocking horse, And we had that for years, yes. He made stick horses for you kids. He made trucks. He did he had a lay out in the workshop, and of course he made billy clubs and things like this with that. But at that time, with the toys and things and the different things he could make for Christmas, it made our Christmases real nice then. And like you say, it would be he would enjoy knowing that we are doing these things now. And Jim working with the wood and building the things, making the things that he's making, the reindeer and all the different things that he makes. He'd be real proud. So I'm sure that Jim got this from his dad.
Yeah, the way Jim sands and polishes things, that's the way Dad used to do with the billy clubs.
Oh, yes. Oh, they were beautiful. I still have one in the closet. Michael wants to play with it every once in a while, but he doesn't exactly know how to use something just to play. He wants to hit things.
So Jim working with his hands and stuff like that.
And
Probably comes from the love of watching what Dad did.
And then Jim is handing this down to Jimmy. They are both getting so good with their woodworking. He would be very proud to see the things that he makes. Also, I know he would be very proud of Twyla with the progress she's making in her work. And
she kind of is like Dad.
yes, she's a perfectionist. And I remember when the kids were going to school, how he always wanted to pitch in and help. He helped Jim with his schoolwork, and he helped you with yours.
No, he put me through.
Well, anyway, he tried with Twyla. He wanted to help her, and she would have no help. She would do everything on her own. I know that had to come from the Duncan side because Isla was so positive in everything that she could do everything. And I think Twyla takes a lot from her.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Whatever she can do.
That's right. And I'm sure that looking down now, that he's very proud of his family. Progress everybody's made. And the love that we have for one another. And I think I owe an awful lot to God for the love that He gave to me. Born good parents, born in a Catholic family. I think he just knew what was right. He gave me loving parents that took care of him so well, that all the love that a child could have. Then he found Leo for him. To me, he was a gift. Really good. I love him. He passed the love on to his children. I thank God for my wonderful family.
Well, I think at this point that we might as well say Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas, children.
This is our gift to you because our memories are so special.
I love you all.
And I think you're all neat too.